This happened 2 years ago when I was 19. It was my first job. I worked the overnight shift at a 24-hour gas station just outside of town, midnight to 8 a.m. The location was isolated. One long highway, empty fields on both sides, no houses nearby. At night, it felt like the middle of nowhere. Most nights were boring. A few truck drivers, maybe someone grabbing snacks, but between 2 and 4 a.m., it was completely dead. And that's when this happened. It was around 2:13 a.m. I remember the exact time because I checked the clock when the first strange thing happened. All the pumps outside shut off at once. The lights above them flickered, then went dark. Inside the store, everything stayed on. I figured it was a power glitch outside. It happens sometimes. So I stepped outside to check the breaker box on the side of the building. The air felt freezing, unnaturally cold. No cars in sight, no headlights in the distance, just silence. Then I noticed something strange. Every single pump screen was on, but instead of showing prices, they were blank, just glowing white. That's when I heard it. A car engine, slowly pulling into the lot. I turned. A dark sedan rolled in without headlights. It didn't pull up to a pump. It just stopped near the edge of the property. Engine still running. I couldn't see inside. The windows were tinted. I waited. No one got out. After about a minute, the engine shut off, but the headlights never turned on, and the driver door never opened. The car just sat there. I went back inside. Something about it didn't feel right. From behind the counter, I could see the car through the window. Still parked, still dark. 5 minutes passed, then 10, no movement. Finally, I picked up the store phone to call my manager. Before I could dial, the phone rang. I jumped. It was the store line. Caller ID, unknown. I answered. Gas station. How can I help you? Silence. Then a man's voice. Very calm, very clear. Don't go back outside. My stomach dropped. What? Click. The line went dead. I looked out the window. The car was gone. No headlights. No sound of it leaving. Just gone. The pumps were still blank white. I checked the cameras. That's when things got worse. The footage showed the parking lot. Empty. No car had pulled in. No sedan. Nothing. I rewound it. Still nothing. But I know what I saw. At 2:47 a.m., the front door alarm beeped. Someone had entered, but the bell above the door never rang. I looked up. No one was there. The door was closed. Locked. The alarm beeped again, as if someone had walked in twice. Then the motion sensor lights in aisle 3 turned on, by themselves. I slowly stepped out from behind the counter. Aisle 3 is where we keep drinks and coolers, tall shelves, limited visibility. As I approached, I heard breathing. Heavy breathing. Not mine. I stopped walking. The breathing stopped too. I waited. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Nothing. I turned the corner. The aisle was empty, but one of the fridge doors was open. Cold air spilling out, and written in the condensation on the glass were 2 words. Still here. I backed away immediately. I didn't touch anything. I went straight to the office and locked the door. There's a small monitor in there, connected to 4 cameras. Front door, counter, parking lot, aisle 3. I stared at the screen for almost 20 minutes. Nothing moved. Then at exactly 3:15 a.m., the parking lot camera flickered, and the dark sedan appeared. Parked in the same spot as before, except this time, the driver door was open, and someone was standing outside the car. Just standing there, facing the building. I couldn't see their face. Too dark. But I could tell they were smiling. I don't know how, but I could feel it. The office door handle suddenly rattled. Violently. Someone was trying to open it. I froze. The rattling stopped, then 3 slow knocks. The same pattern. 3, evenly spaced. I didn't move. I didn't speak. After about 30 seconds, silence. I looked back at the monitor. The parking lot was empty again. No car, no person, nothing. At 4 a.m., the pumps came back on. The outside lights turned on like nothing happened. A truck driver pulled in. Normal customer, paid for gas, said everything looked fine. I asked him if he saw a dark sedan in the lot when he arrived. He said no. The highway had been empty for miles. I quit 2 days later. I never told my manager the full story. He said there were no camera malfunctions logged that night. No power issues, no alarm triggers, nothing. But I still think about that phone call, about the voice telling me not to go outside. Because if the car wasn't on camera, and no one ever pulled in, then who told me not to go back outside? And how did they know I already had? If you ever work somewhere isolated, and someone tells you not to go outside, listen, because sometimes they're not warning you about what's inside. They're warning you about what's waiting. This happened when I was 22. I worked as a night orderly at a private hospital. It wasn't a huge hospital, just 4 floors, quiet, mostly elderly patients. My shift was from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. The 3rd floor was long-term care. Only 6 patients were assigned there, and on this particular night, only 1 was left. Room 306. Her name was Mrs. Halberg, 86 years old, bedridden, could barely speak. The nurses said she probably wouldn't make it through the week. My job was simple: check vitals, make sure machines were stable, respond if she pressed the call button. That was it. Around 12:40 a.m., I did my first check. Room 306 was silent, heart monitor steady, oxygen machine humming softly. Mrs. Halberg was asleep, or at least I thought she was. As I turned to leave, she spoke, very clearly. "Don't let him in." Her voice was weak but sharp. I turned back. "Don't let who in?" I asked. She didn't respond. Her eyes were closed, the heart monitor steady. I told myself it was just delirium. Patients say strange things, sometimes. I left the room. At 1:17 a.m., the elevator on that floor opened. No one had badged in. Visitors aren't allowed overnight. I checked the security monitor at the nurse's station. The camera showed the elevator doors open, empty, no one inside, but the doors stayed open, longer than normal, like someone was standing there, holding them. Then they slowly closed. At 1:32 a.m., the call light for room 306 turned on. I walked back. When I entered the room, Mrs. Halberg was sitting upright in bed. That wasn't possible. She hadn't sat up on her own in weeks. Her eyes were open, wider than I'd ever seen. "He's here," she whispered. "Who is here?" I asked. She slowly turned her head toward the corner of the room, near the bathroom door. I looked. Nothing there. When I looked back at her, she was lying down again, as if she had never moved. The call light was off. At 2 a.m., the heart monitor started spiking, beeping irregularly. I rushed in. Her vitals were unstable for about 5 seconds. Then they returned to normal. But something else changed. The room felt crowded. That's the only way I can describe it. Like the air was heavier, thicker, harder to breathe. Then I heard it, from the bathroom. A soft shuffle, like someone dragging their foot. I walked to the door, opened it. The bathroom was empty. But the mirror was fogged, completely fogged, and written across it, from the inside, were the words, "Let me stay." I stepped back immediately. The air felt freezing now. I wiped the mirror with my sleeve. Nothing there, just my reflection. At 2:45 a.m., the elevator opened again. This time, the security monitor showed something different. A tall man, standing inside, facing away from the camera, wearing what looked like an old hospital gown. His head tilted slightly downward. He didn't move. The door stayed open. I grabbed the radio. "Is anyone supposed to be on the 3rd floor?" I asked downstairs. Static, no answer. When I looked back at the monitor, the elevator was empty again. At 3:03 a.m., every machine in room 306 shut off. Completely. Flat silence. No beeping. No oxygen hum. Nothing. I ran in. The monitors were black, but Mrs. Halberg was awake, smiling. Her eyes locked onto mine. "You let him in," she said. I felt my stomach drop. "I didn't let anyone in," I replied. She slowly pointed behind me. Very slowly. I didn't want to turn around, but I did. The bathroom door was open, and standing inside was the same tall man from the elevator, his back facing me, motionless. I couldn't see his face, but I could see his reflection in the mirror. And his reflection was smiling, wide, unnaturally wide. I blinked, and he was gone. The machine suddenly turned back on, heart monitor beeping rapidly. Mrs. Halberg was flatlining. Code Blue was called. Doctors rushed in. They pushed me out of the room. They worked on her for 15 minutes, but she didn't make it. Time of death, 3:19 a.m. Later that morning, I reviewed the security footage. There was no man in the elevator, no bathroom fog, no machine shut down, nothing unusual recorded, but there was one thing. At exactly 3:03 a.m., when the machines went dark, the hallway camera outside room 306 showed something. The door opened slightly, and a tall figure stepped out, looked directly into the camera, and walked toward the elevator. The timestamp glitched, and the footage cut out. I quit that hospital a week later. I never worked night shifts again. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see that reflection, that smile in the mirror, and I think about what she said. You let him in, and I wonder if he was there for her, or if he's still looking for someone else to let him in. If you ever work the night shift in a hospital, and a patient tells you not to let someone in, take it seriously, because some visitors don't need a key card. I used to think night shifts were peaceful, quiet, predictable. I worked as a security guard at a small office building on the edge of town. Nothing special, just 3 floors, a parking garage, and a front lobby with glass doors that looked out into an empty street. My shift was from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Most nights, nothing happened. But this story is about the one night that changed everything. It was a Thursday, cold, windy, the kind of night where the streets feel abandoned. By 11 p.m., all the employees had left. I did my usual routine, checked each floor, locked the stairwell doors, turned off unnecessary lights. Everything was normal, too normal. Around midnight, I was sitting at the front desk, watching the security monitors. 16 cameras, parking lot, hallways, elevators, storage rooms. That's when I noticed something strange, the 3rd floor hallway. For just a second, I thought I saw someone standing near the emergency exit. I leaned closer to the screen. There was no one there. I rewound the footage. Nothing. Just an empty hallway. I told myself I was tired. Night shifts mess with your head. Around 12:47 a.m., the elevator moved. On its own. No one had badged in. No doors had opened. But I saw it clearly on the screen. The elevator indicator changed from floor 1 to floor 3. Slowly, I felt a tightness in my chest. Maybe maintenance? Maybe a system glitch? Still, I grabbed my flashlight. Protocol says you investigate. So I did. The building felt different at night. The air felt heavier. Every footstep echoed too loudly. When I reached the elevator, the doors were closed. I pressed the button. The doors opened immediately, empty. But the air inside the elevator felt warm, warmer than the hallway, like someone had just been standing there. I stepped inside and pressed floor 3. As the doors closed, I heard something. A soft sound, like breathing. I froze. I looked around, nothing. The elevator reached the 3rd floor. The doors opened. The hallway lights were dimmed for night mode. Long corridor, gray carpet, emergency exit sign, glowing red at the end. And for a split second, I thought I saw a figure turn the corner. I walked slowly down the hallway. Security, I called out. No response. My flashlight beam shook slightly. When I reached the corner, no one was there. But the emergency exit door was slightly open. That door is always locked from the inside. Always. I pushed it closed and tested it. Locked. I told myself I must have imagined it. But as I turned around, I heard a soft whisper behind me. Not clear words, just air moving. Right next to my ear. I spun around. Nothing. The hallway was empty. Completely empty. I went back downstairs. My heart was racing now. I checked the monitor again. Everything normal, except camera 12 was glitching, static. Just that one camera. Then it came back, and this time, I saw something. A person, standing at the end of the 3rd floor hallway, facing the camera, not moving, just standing there. I couldn't make out the face, it was too dark, but the posture was wrong, too stiff. Arms hanging straight down, head tilted slightly to the side. I stared at the screen. The figure didn't move, didn't blink, didn't shift. Then suddenly, the camera feed cut to black. My radio crackled. I nearly jumped out of my chair. But it wasn't anyone talking. It was just static. Loud, aggressive static. Then, a voice, very faint. Come back. I grabbed the radio. Hello? Who is this? Silence. Then again, come back. The voice didn't sound like it was coming through the radio. It sounded closer, like it was in the room with me. I slowly turned around. The lobby was empty. The glass doors reflected my own pale face. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. In the reflection, behind me, there was someone standing near the elevators. I spun around. No one there. I looked back at the glass. Nothing. Just me. I decided to check the cameras again. Every single feed was normal, except one. The parking garage. Camera 3. There was someone standing next to my car, looking up at the camera. I leaned closer. It was the same figure, same stiff posture, same tilted head, and then it slowly raised its arm and pointed upward toward the building, toward me. The screen went black. That's when the power went out. Everything. Lights, monitors, elevators. Darkness swallowed the lobby. Only the red emergency exit signs remained glowing faintly. I could hear my own breathing. Fast, uneven. Then I heard footsteps, slow, heavy, coming from the stairwell, one step at a time, getting closer. I backed away from the desk. The footsteps stopped, right outside the lobby door. There was a long silence. Then, 3 slow knocks on the glass. I couldn't see who was there. It was too dark outside, but I could feel it. Something was watching me. Waiting. Then my phone vibrated. I almost screamed. It was a text from my supervisor. It said, "Why did you leave your post?" My blood ran cold. I hadn't moved from the lobby. Another message came through. "I can see you on camera 12. Camera 12. The 3rd floor hallway." I slowly looked up at the dark monitor. It flickered back to life for just a second, and I saw it. The screen showed the 3rd floor hallway, and there, standing in the center, was me, holding a flashlight, staring directly into the camera. But I was downstairs, in the lobby. I wasn't on the 3rd floor. The version of me on the screen smiled. Then the power came back on. All the lights returned. All cameras normal. No one in the garage. No one in the hallway. Nothing. I quit the next morning. I didn't tell anyone the full story. They said the power outage lasted only 10 seconds. They said the elevator never moved. They said camera 12 never malfunctioned. But sometimes, when I'm trying to sleep, I think about that screen, about the version of me, standing in that hallway, smiling. And sometimes, late at night, I get a text from an unknown number, just 2 words, "Come back." I never reply. If you ever work a night shift alone, and you see yourself somewhere you shouldn't be, don't investigate, because it might not be a glitch. It might be waiting. This happened last winter. I was working the overnight shift at a small roadside hotel. Not a big chain, just a 2-story building with 28 rooms. My shift was 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. After midnight, it was usually quiet. Most guests were asleep, and the parking lot stayed empty. That night started normal. By 12:30 a.m., everyone had checked in. No new reservations, no scheduled arrivals. I locked the lobby doors like I always did. Guests could still enter with their key cards, but no one from outside could just walk in. At least, that's how it was supposed to work. Around 1:12 a.m., the lobby phone rang. I almost ignored it. Calls that late are usually complaints about noise. I answered. Front desk. Silence. Then slow breathing. Not heavy. Not aggressive. Just steady breathing. "Hello?" I said again. The breathing stopped. Then a quiet voice said, "I'm locked out." I checked the system. No missed key entries. "What room are you in?" I asked. No answer. Then the line went dead. About 5 minutes later, I heard knocking. 3 soft knocks on the lobby glass doors. I looked up. A man was standing outside, tall, wearing a dark coat. His face was pale under the parking lot lights. He wasn't shivering, even though it was freezing outside. I walked to the door. "We're closed," I said through the glass. He didn't respond. He just stared at me, then slowly raised his hand and pointed to the sign on the door, 24-hour service. I hesitated. Technically, the desk is staffed 24 hours, so I unlocked the door, just enough to speak to him. "You said you're locked out. What room?" He smiled slightly. "I'm already inside." Before I could react, the lobby lights flickered, just once. I looked back at him. The doorway was empty. The door was still locked. I checked the camera footage. There had been no one at the door, no knocking, nothing. At 2 a.m., the elevator dinged. No one had used a key card. No one had entered the lobby. But the elevator camera showed it moving, from the 2nd floor, down to the lobby. The doors opened, empty, then closed, then went back up to room 214. I checked the guest list. Room 214 was vacant. No one had stayed there in weeks. We were renovating it. No furniture, no mattress, nothing inside. I told myself it was a sensor glitch. Old building, old wiring. But then the phone rang again. Internal line, room 214. My throat tightened. I answered slowly. Hello? Static. Then a whisper. You let me in. The same voice as before. The line cut. I grabbed the master key, against my better judgment, and went upstairs. The hallway felt colder than usual. Room 214 was at the end. The lights above it were flickering. I stood in front of the door, listened. Silence. I swiped the key. The lock clicked open. I pushed the door. The room was dark, empty, like it should be. But the bathroom light was on. I was sure it hadn't been earlier. I stepped inside. The air smelled damp, like old water. The bathroom mirror was fogged, and written in the condensation were 4 words. You said I could. My chest felt tight. I never said that, I whispered to myself. That's when I heard the door close behind me. I turned around fast. The room door was shut. I hadn't touched it. I rushed to open it. The handle wouldn't move. It felt locked from the outside. I pounded on it. Hello? No answer. Then I heard footsteps. Slow steps. Walking across the empty room. But I was alone. The footsteps circled me, stopping just inches away. I could feel someone standing directly behind me, breathing, cold air against my neck. A voice whispered, "You're not supposed to see the empty rooms." The bathroom light shut off. Everything went black. I don't remember how long I stood there. It felt like minutes, maybe seconds. Then suddenly, the hallway lights came back on. The door swung open. I stumbled out into the hallway. No one there. The elevator dinged again, from the lobby. I ran downstairs. The lobby was normal, quiet. Computer screen glowing. Security cameras fine. No sign of anyone. Then I noticed something on the counter. A room key. Plastic card. Room 2014. I checked the system. It showed one active guest in that room. Checked in at 12:58 a.m. No name. Just blank. I tried to delete it from the system. It wouldn't erase. Then the printer behind me started printing on its own. A receipt for room 214. Total charge, $0. Length of stay, permanent. At 6:45 a.m., my replacement arrived. I asked him if he'd ever had issues with room 214. He looked confused. There is no 214, he said. We skipped that number. It goes from 213 to 215. I stared at him. I had physically walked into 214. I had the key. I checked the hallway again before leaving. It went from 213 straight to 215. No 214. No door, just a blank wall. I quit 2 days later. They said I looked exhausted. Said I must have imagined it.